Return to Us, a Fire Emblem Fanfiction by Robin, Queen of Ylisse. Chapter 2. Pastime. Is she alright? Chrom asked, gazing curiously at the unconscious figure. The mysterious individual was a young woman, likely a year or two younger than Chrom. She wore a heavy cloak with a thick hood that hid much of her face from view, but allowed a few strands of her white bangs to slip out onto the grass she lay in. Well, she's breathing, so that's a good sign. But we can't leave her here, Chrom. We have to do something, Ylisse stated, turning towards her brother. What do you propose we do? The Lord asked, giving his sister a curious eye. I don't know, she stuttered, but both of their attentions were drawn as the figure began to stir. Both watched as the young woman's eyes slowly opened, blinking as they were met by the sun's glare. I see you're awake now, Chrom began, leaning over to better level himself with the stranger. Hey there, Ylisse smiled from over Chrom's shoulder. There are better places to take a nap than on the ground, you know, the blue-haired lord said, offering a hand. Give me your hand. The young woman hesitated at first, her eyes rising to meet Chrom's, but after a short pause, she accepted his offer. He couldn't help but notice some kind of marking on the back of her right hand, but he could make nothing of it as he helped the woman to her feet. Once on her feet, she straightened herself out, her white pigtails trailing over her shoulders as she cleared the grass from her hair. Chrom offered a friendly smile to the stranger, asking, You alright? Yes. Thank you, Chrom, she answered, and Chrom raised an eyebrow as she used his name. However, before he could ask anything, Ylisse leaped in front of him, nearly knocking him off balance. What a bizarre design, Ylisse exclaimed, twirling around the girl, pulling at the cloak she wore. Where did you get this from? She asked, as the woman made a series of flustered grunts, her face red with embarrassment. And why were you sleeping on the ground? I don't know, she answered, after managing to pull her cloak out of Lyssa's reach. Her eyes met with Chrom's, as though to find someone other than the excited girl to talk to. Chrom moved forward, taking the stage from Ylisse, who shrunk back behind him. By the way, how'd you know my name? Have you heard of me? The woman's face contorted as she appeared to be thinking. No, actually it's strange, your name just sort of came to me, she mustered, appearing to struggle out the words as she tried to remember. That's strange. Well, could you tell me your name? The girl frowned, furrowing her brow into a troubled scowl. Chrom immediately felt pity as he watched her struggle to recall the memory of her own name. He was about to insist that she didn't strain herself further when she finally spoke. Robin! She exclaimed, a relieved smile crossing her face. Yes, it's Robin. That's my name. I'm sure of it. Really? You're sure of it then? Frederick spoke out from behind Chrom, having chosen to remain silent until this moment. He gave a skeptical look at the girl, his voice laced with distrust. But it's the truth, Robin retorted defensively, stress remerging on her face. We are supposed to believe that, Frederick began, but Chrom cut him off mid-statement. What if it's true, Frederick? All the same, we cannot leave her here alone, he said, turning towards Robin. Well, if you can't remember much, why don't you come with us to the nearby village? There we can get everything sorted out. The white-haired woman gazed back in a confused amazement. You would do that? For a complete stranger? We are shepherds, Ylisse exclaimed joyously, twirling her staff around her. We couldn't just leave behind a lost sheep now, could we? Shepherds? Robin asked, furrowing her brow, then glancing over to Frederick. You tend sheep in full armor? Chrom chuckled slightly before remarking, It can be a dangerous job, receiving a confused glance from the white-haired woman. She's not a sheep, she's a person, Frederick grumbled, but his words were ignored as Ylisse grabbed a confused Robin's hand and began to pull her towards town before the white-haired girl could think of what to say. Chrom began to follow them, but Frederick stood before him, blocking his path, his glare making his intentions clear. If you would allow, might I speak my mind, my lord? He asked once Robin and Ylisse had traveled out of earshot. Chrom sighed, already knowing what to expect. If you must, I merely wish that you understand my concern. I do not want to see you fall for some witch's trap because you refuse to acknowledge a potential threat to your lordship, he said sternly, the concern eminent in his voice. Your concerns are noted, Frederick, but I can swear to you that Robin is of no danger to us. But by what proof can you believe this? Sometimes you just need to trust me, Frederick. Milord, I trust you with my life, but... Frederick began, but was cut off by Lyssa's voice calling out. Well, are you two coming? Crom put a hand on the loyal knight's shoulder, saying, I'm grateful for your concern, but please, give her a chance, before moving to follow after his sister. Frederick bowed slightly before muttering, Of course, milord, if it is what you wish, before following close behind. Wait, you have no idea what Ylisse is? Lyssa asked, staring at the white-haired girl in disbelief. A confused look crossed Robin's face as she asked, Who? It's not a question of who, it's a question of where. Crom chuckled, seeing the troubled look on the woman's face. You see, this land is known as the Halidom of Ylisse, led by the exiled Amaran. So it's like a nation, Robin concluded, smiling lightly at her accomplishment. Crom gazed at her for a long while, unsure what to make of her reaction. You can't remember anything, can you? He muttered quietly, receiving a sorrowful look from the woman in response. Well, hopefully we can help you out once we get to the... Crom! Look! The town! Lyssa exclaimed, pointing towards a column of rising smoke. Damn it! The town's been lit ablaze! Crom shouted as he ran out to get a better view of the town. Those damned brigands! Frederick, Lyssa, come quickly! We must help! Crom called back again, reaching for the sword at his hip. What of her? Frederick called back, gesturing towards Robin, who gazed wide-eyed into the flames. Crom drew falchion from its sheath at his side, shouting, Unless she's on fire as well, it can wait. We must hurry. Of course, milord, Frederick responded, drawing his weapon and following the siblings, leaving behind a dazed Robin. Wait, what about... Robin muttered, and after a quick decision, rushed after the trio, not entirely sure as to what she was doing. Crom struggled to see clearly through the thick smoke. He could hear the voices of bandits and townsfolk alike, but he struggled to make out anything specific. He needed to find who it was that was in charge of the operation. Crippling the chain of command was the best plan he could come up with. The man you're looking for is over there, a familiar voice said from beside him, and Crom was surprised to find Robin standing beside him. You followed us? Why? You only just awoke. There's no way you could possibly... Wait, you have a sword? However, Robin didn't wait to answer him as he jumped forward. Frederick, Lyssa and Crom all watched in a stunned surprise as Robin dashed at a brigand, parrying a sloppy attack with a well-timed swing and bringing the man down with relative ease. Straightening herself out, Robin turned towards the shocked trio with a confused look. Well, are you going to help me? Snapping out of his momentary daze, Crom leaped after the white-haired woman. Right. Frederick, watch Lyssa, make sure she doesn't get hurt. Oh, come on, I'm not some helpless fool who can take care of themselves, Lyssa complained, but Crom ignored her as he stood beside Robin, and he was shocked when she drew a book from the folds of her cloak. Wait, is that a tome? You know magic? Crom asked in astonishing surprise, amazed by the host of surprises the stranger was providing. I believe so, she answered, opening the book, curiously scanning its contents. You believe so? No offense, but perhaps I should keep a few steps back for the time being. No, I can control it, I think. Just let me, she pondered before experimentally reading out a spell, jumping in surprise as she was surrounded by glowing runes, and a bolt of lightning crackled through the air, striking at a nearby brigand. Crom stood in amazement as Lyssa and Frederick came up beside them. You can fight with magic and a sword! That's so cool! I wish I could do that, but I just heal people, like fix broken bones and... But Lyssa's ranting was lost as Robin drew the group's attention to a group of brigands. It's strange. I feel as though I can see everything so clearly here. Our enemies' weapons and skills, the flow of the battle and the best move to take next. It just all comes to me. I must have studied it somewhere. Robin marveled as her eyes darted across the battlefield with a new-gained excitement. You're saying you can strategize? Like a tactician? Crom asked, and Robin gave a confident nod. Well, I can't explain it, but I believe so. I'm sure of it. Alright then, tell me what the best plan is to stop South Dawn from burning to the ground, Chrom asked after a moment's hesitation. Tell me what our next move is. The four of them stood at the center of town, watching as the people began repairing the damaged buildings, with the last of the fires having been extinguished. Chrom stole a glance over to Robin, the tactician standing with her arms on her hips, wearing a proud smile as she examined the events. The woman's cleverness had surprised the young lord, as she had been able to carefully navigate them through the chaos that had surrounded them. She had effortlessly led their small group on the most efficient route, defeating the brigands far faster than he would have deemed possible. It had seemed as though she could glean the future itself, knowing her enemies' move before they themselves did. Chrom had never been one for strategy, but it didn't take a strategist to recognize Robin's genius. He didn't know what it was about the girl, but he knew there was something special about her. Something he had recognized the moment their eyes had first met, and something that had been demonstrated in her actions. Discarding his thoughts, he moved forward, lightly tapping her shoulder as to gain her attention before speaking. "Thank you." She gave him a confused look before asking, "For what?" "For aiding us. There was no way we could have done it without you, and as such you have earned my trust." He chose not to mention that he had already trusted her before the event, as Frederick was already glaring disapprovingly for what he just said. The tactician's face turned a light shade of pink before she smiled and said, "Well, you're welcome. I mean, it's just the least I could do since you found me and tried to help." "Well, then I suppose you will be heading on your way to continue whatever it was you were doing." "Not without something to eat first," Ylisse exclaimed, bouncing up and down with a large grin on her face. "No, we shall be leaving at once," Frederick said sternly, receiving an irritated look from Ylisse. "We must report what has happened to the Exalt." "But Frederick," Ylisse complained as the two began to bicker. Robin silently glanced down at the ground between her feet, biting her lip. "Come with us," Chrom blurted out, the words leaving his mouth before he realized what it was he was saying, but his mind had been made up. Robin stammered lightly, blinking in disbelief. "Me? Go with you?" Chrom could feel the heat upon his face as the others looked at him, and he spoke with a confidence he hadn't been sure he was capable of. "Yes, come with us to Ylisse. Such an able tactician would make a grand addition to the shepherds. So how about it, Robin? Will you join us?" Robin stared in wonder and surprise at the Lord for a long moment before finally producing an answer. "Well, of course. That would be wonderful."